Albert Breer, Sports Illustrated, where I work, came out with an article today sort of detailing exactly the timeline of how things went down with Aiyuk and the Niners. And I just think it's fascinating. So before we move on and go to Trent, I just want to linger over the Aiyuk situation real quick. And I know people kind of are tired of it. But what Breer says is that the Niners made an offer before the draft, like $26 million a year. Aiyuk said no. They didn't up their offer until August 12th. So in between the first offer and the second offer, they were calling teams. They had deals in place with 3 different teams. It really seems like they were extremely open to trading him. If not, it felt like that was their first choice. And then on August 7th, Ricky, who no longer exists, the dog avatar guy who was breaking news kind of, says, hey, he's going to the Steelers. The trade is in place. He's going to Pittsburgh. And I mean, it's been reported like there was a trade in place. There was a contract in place. The Niners just never pulled the trigger on it because to me, it seemed like the public backlash from Niner fans was just so freaking strong that the Niners, 5 days later, have a meeting with Brandon Aiyuk. And you're like, you know what? We thought about it. And here's the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal, more or less. On August 12th, they had an epiphany. Halfway through camp, mid-hold-in, after they had already agreed to a trade with Pittsburgh and heard what their fans thought of it. I think that's really interesting. And it kind of reminds me of when they were about to draft Mac Jones and people found out and lost their freaking minds and they pivoted right at the end. Yeah. I don't know. What are your takeaways on how this went down?
Well, according to his agent, they also tweaked it after that August 12th deal. And it may not have been the total per year, but guaranteed money, wording, things like that. According to his agent, it was tweaked even afterwards. And that's what finally got Brandon Aiyuk to agree. So it is, I think these guys understand it's business, but the reality is both Debo and Brandon Aiyuk were on the trading block going into the draft. Both of them were. And both of them are still on the team. So there is that dynamic, but I'm assuming they understand it's business. It is what it is. And that's why players have to think about their money first, because the teams are thinking about what's best for the team and thinking about how they can save money and what's best for the organization. Players have to think about what's best for them and their family. And so, fans get frustrated with players when they're negotiating these things, but these teams don't, look, there's the personal relationships that you build with players and coaches within the team, but that's separate from the actual business that takes place, right? The 49ers were 100% willing to move on from Brandon Aiyuk or Debo if the right opportunity presented itself. So don't get mad at the players when they're thinking about, how do I make sure that my family's protected for years to come? How do I get the most out of this organization? I think it's a little bit hypocritical if we're critical on the players for doing the exact same thing that the organizations are trying to do.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting. Breer reiterates multiple times Aiyuk's first choice was to stay with the 49ers. And I believe it. I believe that. But was Kyle's first choice to re-sign, to extend Aiyuk? I mean, for 4 months, they took such a hard line. No, 26, take it or leave it. And we're drafting Ricky Pearsall. And we love him. It's like, take it or leave it, buddy. And then all of a sudden, and we're going to trade you to Pittsburgh. You want to go to Pittsburgh? Fine. Go ahead. We'll take the second and the third. We don't freaking care. And then all these fans go no, what are you talking about? You can't do this. And I feel like the Niners, ever since John and Kyle have been here, are very unwilling to do super unpopular moves. What was the last unpopular move they did? Buckner. 5 years ago. I think I almost feel like they float things to see what people think, and then they make decisions accordingly, because part of keeping your job is keeping the fans happy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason Ricky Pearsall was drafted, right? You don't draft a wide receiver in the first round if you know you're bringing back Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel. You just don't do that, especially if you're extending Juwan Jennings. So you extended Juwan Jennings. If you knew you were going to extend Brandon Aiyuk and bring back Deebo, you're not going to draft a wide receiver in the first round and then also in the fourth round. So there was question about it the whole time. My understanding is that Debo and BA were completely on the trading block until day 2. And
Mhm.
then they weren't able to get anything they wanted, and they decided to not do it. So, I mean, I'm assuming that Debo, Brandon Aiyuk can understand that part and move past it. But I just think fans need to have a little bit more patience, because it seems like whenever these situations arise, fans start turning on the player. Right? We're going to talk about Trent later, and I've never seen Trent hate at all until now. All of a sudden, people are saying Trent's overrated. Like, I think fans need to understand these players. They have to they have to look out for themselves. It's their job.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I wonder if this like Cold War standoff between Aiyuk and Kyle, or Aiyuk and the Niners, is over. Because I mean, this is Kyle's pattern. Like, he takes a hard line, he tries to talk himself into being like, I don't need this guy. I don't need him. You know, I made him. I can live without him. And then he buckles and keeps him. And who was the first guy? Jimmy. He wanted to get rid of Jimmy for years. Whatever, man. I don't need you. I can just draft a guy. I'll bring in Trey Lance. No problem. And then it's like at the very last minute, no, I need Jimmy. We want to keep Jimmy here. I really want Jimmy. It's like, and you did this now with Brandon. It's like, oh, he's a number 2. He's a product. You get 26 million. Like, take it or leave it. It's like, okay, Brandon, here's 30. It's fine. It's like, what do you really believe in? Are you just the guy who caves because you want to be liked by the fans and the players? I don't know.
What they need to do is, when they find players that fit their mold, which Brandon Aiyuk absolutely is. Brandon Aiyuk should be the kind of wide receiver that every team wants, but it's particularly Kyle, just because of how physical he plays and how aggressive he is in the blocking game, right? Brandon Aiyuk is basically, if you look at what Kyle wants from a wide receiver, that's Brandon Aiyuk. So to me, I tweeted out 2 years ago that Brandon Aiyuk's not the kind of player you trade. You jump on him early and extend him and make him a Niner for life. I think they need to do a better job at recognizing who those guys are early and making it happen early, instead of taking this hard line. I mean, I'm just glad Brandon Aiyuk's here. I'll put it that way. I think he's going to be great.
I'll take the other stance. Like, I would have supported a trade. I said it before the draft. I felt like, you know what? 26 million seems about right. They don't pass the ball enough to justify 30. I think investing in a quarterback and the wide receiver is too much. Like, no, trade him. I said that the whole time. And if he had done it, I would have been like, that took real cojones to do that. I respect it. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. But I understand the thought process behind it, and I agree with it. But it felt like he just backed down. Like, it felt like we were on the same page. And then on August 12th, he was like, you know what? I completely lost my nerve. I lost my nerve. I don't want the heat. It's a lot of heat, and I don't want it.
Like, at 26, it seems like, hey, to me, 26, I'm like, keep him. But when you when you lag on it and it becomes 30, 120 million, then you're like, damn, like, that's a lot of money. Like, are you sure you want to spend that on a wide receiver?
And for months they were like, absolutely not. We're not going to do that. Absolutely not. And then it's like, okay, fine.
They did. Yeah.
I don't get it. Well, I kind of do get it. Maybe I'm just cynical. Hold on, we got a couple supers, and then we're gonna do some supers and sleepers. Shady Luke says Joe Rogan exposed Rick Ross.
I don't know.
Did he?
I don't know anything about it. I think
I don't really follow like either one of those guys these days.
Or something. Yeah.
Rick Ross. It's NorCal, bro. Says Tupac shot 9 times and was discharged the next day. Those punks didn't finish. Now they about to feel the wrath of a menace. Okay. Wow. Heath Cleland says, are these types of events ops to make some money? Are these type of events ops to make some money?
Talking about the autograph?
The autograph signing?
I
don't know.
Paid for that,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's probably a bad idea, man. You just got enough money and you haven't caught a pass yet, and it's risky, so don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, it's pretty standard. You would think the security would be there. Yeah, it's just, yeah. I mean, that was at the Cow Palace. I think that's important. I think a lot of people don't realize that the autograph signing was at the Cow Palace, which is in Daly City, which is not close to where he got, what is that? 30 minutes with no traffic.
And I feel like the big response on Twitter from a lot of people was like, oh, San Francisco, what's happened to it? It's terrible. Like, yeah, I mean, if you go to San Francisco, they could do better over there. But like, this is every city. If you are 24 and you have millions of dollars and you say, I'm going to be in this city today, walking around, and here's what I'm wearing, it could happen anywhere. Anywhere. So
not even city. It could happen anywhere in the rural.
It could happen in Petaluma.